Well, welcome. My name's Julie McCrossin and I'm a survivor of head and neck cancer. And the purpose of this video is to alert the high net worth investment community about the opportunity to invest in Proton Therapy Sydney. Proton Therapy Sydney is a proton therapy clinic, and the Kurraba Group is providing the building and the bunker as part of their new $490 million Life Sciences campus in 100 Botany Road, Waterloo, in inner city Sydney. And today I'm going to be talking to Nick Smith, CEO of Kurraba, Sue Bleasel, Managing Director of Proton Therapy Sydney. And first of all, it's my pleasure to welcome Wendy Schumer, the IBA representative in Australia. And IBA develops and manufactures proton therapy systems, and IBA has been selected by Proton Therapy Sydney to provide the technology. And so it's a big welcome to you, Wendy. Welcome. What is proton therapy and its key benefits for patients?
Yes, well, indeed, proton therapy is the most advanced and precise form of radiation therapy, and it's one of the most promising cancer therapies that's ever been developed. So unlike conventional radiotherapy, which uses X-rays that pass straight through the body, proton therapy uses particles, which are positively charged particles called protons. And these protons have a fantastic physical property whereby they stop at a certain distance inside the patient. And the benefit of this is that only a small amount of radiation is delivered before the tumour, and most of the radiation is delivered inside the tumour. The benefit of that is that the healthy body parts absorb very little radiation, and that reduces the side effects for the patients and gives them a better quality of life.
I guess one thing I'd add there, as a head and neck cancer patient, I have a great interest in this. It also doesn't do damage as it leaves the body. So a lot less damage is done to healthy tissue. And why is it important, particularly for children and young people, to have access to proton therapy?
Well, proton therapy is used to treat multiple forms of cancers. It's particularly appropriate for cancers that are close to normal critical structures, such as the spinal cord. And it's also very good for young patients because it reduces the harm to their normal healthy body parts that are still growing and developing. So we really don't want to irradiate children's healthy bodies.
And I should say to people who are hearing about proton therapy that currently there are 122 proton therapy facilities worldwide, but currently Australia has none. And the Australian government does currently send a limited number of patients overseas for treatment because they're not able to get it here. Tell us about IBA's role internationally in providing proton therapy.
Yes, IBA stands for Ion Beam Applications, which is charged particle applications. And it's a Belgian company, headquarters in Belgium. It has over 35 years experience in ion beam applications. And we have delivered proton therapy facilities to over 70 facilities around the world. So spread across Europe, Asia, and North and South America. Over 130,000 patients have received treatment on IBA equipment. So it's very widely used. And IBA is a very experienced company in delivering these complex projects.
We're talking about investment in Proton Therapy Sydney. What role would you play in the establishment and the initial work of Proton Therapy Sydney?
Yeah, well, we're delighted to have been selected by Proton Therapy Sydney to provide the equipment to this project in Waterloo. And Nick Smith will talk a little more about that. But already the IBA has been involved in providing the developers of the facility with specifications and details around the proton therapy bunker, so that can be designed within the project. We're also would be involved in obviously installing the equipment into that bunker, and IBA is capable of delivering a Proteus 1 into that bunker within less than 12 months. We'd also be involved in the maintenance and support of the facility, and we would have engineering staff on site 24/7 to make sure that that equipment is ready and available for patients as they need. We're also involved in the training of the staff of Proton Therapy Sydney and sending them overseas for training and doing on-site user training with them. And also ongoing training. We have an online IBA campus where we can keep users up to date and keep them connected with the global community of our users.
Thanks, Wendy. And I should say to our viewers that the Proteus One is a proton therapy machine, and we can see it behind Wendy's head. I'm a great believer in Lego models as a way of teaching patients and family what they look like, and I'll be showing you one of those as well. But it's my pleasure now to welcome Nick Smith, the CEO of Kurraba, and to ask him, welcome, Nick, what are you hoping to achieve with this life science campus in Waterloo in inner Sydney? And where does Proton Therapy Sydney fit into that?
Yeah, Kurraba is a specialist developer of life science property within Sydney. We're very focused. We're about the future of medical research, and that's just not therapeutic. It's device. It covers oncology, life science, and we're really trying to the future of treatment within this country and sovereign capability, staying in Australia, and not sending people overseas for these life-changing medical research.
And you have a particular interest in cancer because of a family experience, which I think you're willing to just mention to explain some of your passion for this project.
Yeah, I think it's what got me into life science and the future of medical research. My wife actually had breast cancer twice. It came back. She went through two bouts of chemo and radiation and surgeries, and it's pretty dear to my heart seeing cancer eradicated through new research in facilities like this, which focus on commercialisation and applications within Australia.
And your sort of a core building, 100 Botany Road, Waterloo, was part of your preparation as won a Design Excellence Architecture Award through the New South Wales Government Architect. Is that right?
Yeah, it has gone through a design competition. It had three competing architects compete for the design of this facility. And Gensler, which are a world-renowned life science developer, but also work in that commercialized space. So it's not the university space. They've really taken campuses that treat and project this kind of research into the commercialized environment.
Yeah. The location, Waterloo in inner Sydney. Can you explain to potential investors the significance of that location for your development, but particularly for Proton Therapy Sydney?
Yeah, I think we've selected Waterloo quite carefully over the last couple of years. Its infrastructure around it, from the airport to the port to three medical research hospitals, being RPA, Prince of Wales and St Vincent's, and then three universities will create this new IP what goes into this medical research, being UTS, UNSW and USyd. This is the perfect location for the bioscience, oncology and that medical research faculty to come together in a commercialized building.
And you, when I say you, Kurraba, has put some of your own money into the investment into Proton Therapy Sydney. Are you able to tell us how much and why you've gone that extra mile?
We're looking at putting the bunker in, which will facilitate the occupation of the IBA machine or the Proteus One, and helping PTS Sydney really have that space to operate their facility, where we've put a large design component in already, but we're looking to put a bunker under the building, which is about $11 million of Kurraba's capital or Kurraba and its partners' capital into this facility. And we're also committing quite a large incentive to help Proton get up and running within, which is another sort of $7 million over 20 years. So we are invested in seeing these guys get the operation up and running and benefit the whole of Sydney and the whole of Australia.
Thank you for your activities. Could I welcome now Sue Bleasel, the Managing Director of Proton Therapy Sydney. So can you tell us your operating model for Proton Therapy Sydney? What is it, a private hospital kind of structure?
Yes, the Proton Therapy Sydney's operating model will sort of follow the structure of an Australian private hospital model, and which we provide the staff, the clinic, the state-of-the-art equipment, and we offer open access to Proton-accredited radiation oncologists from the public and private sector to come to our facility and treat their patients. We believe this approach is an inclusive approach, and it will enhance education and knowledge sharing amongst radiation oncologists, and in turn, of course, provide greater access to Australians for proton therapy.
And you say Australian, so while this is planned for inner Sydney, patients from across Australia can attend.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, it's not ideal, of course. It'd be wonderful if it was in their own backyard, but it being that it might be the first one and the only one for a while, and so I would assume that radiation oncologists from interstate will also want to treat their patients in our centre.
Investment in Proton Therapy Sydney can be structured as a mix of donation, loan, and/or equity. What is the significance of that flexibility? What's your message to investors watching this?
Flexibility for investors, it sort of allows them a suite of options. $50 million is a lot of money. And so we thought that if we could have some donation, we've already set into our business case a loan agreement, a loan facility, and a loan way in which we would return the investment to our investors. And of course, there's always equity. What I should say about a donation, Julie, is that whatever donation we receive, we would put that towards making cost of treatment much cheaper for the patient. So we would actually use that loan, that donation, to offset the cost of treatment for patients.
So in a nutshell, you need another 50 million, but can you just summarise what you've got already? What is secured for this project?
Well, as Nick says, we've got a clinic including a proton bunker that's fully funded. We've almost completed raising $34 million equity for the development and early operation. In the wings, we have a renowned and prestigious clinical operator who will come in as our partner. They will be our referral. That will be a wonderful referral network to us, and a wonderful partner.
And at the end of this video, I will show you the information about how to contact Sue Bleasel to get a more detailed business case if you're interested in investing in this project. May I close with Wendy Schumer, our IBA representative in Australia. As I mentioned earlier, government planners are predicting growth in two key areas: the number of patients who could benefit from proton therapy, as well as a growth in the types of cancers that will be eligible for reimbursement. What's the significance of that growth for investors, people considering investing?
Well, Julie, I think it's hugely significant to the investors to know that there will be a need for this treatment. And I would refer the investors to a document that was published by Cancer Australia last year, and that was requested by the Australian government. It's the strategy on proton beam therapy for patients in Australia. And in this document, they model the growing need for proton therapy. And that demand is growing, in part due to the evolution and the maturity of the international scientific evidence that shows us the benefits of proton therapy. Currently, only about 370 patients with 13 rare cancers would be funded by Medicare, would be reimbursed by Medicare for proton therapy in Australia. But that's expected to increase because of the potential future indications which will be included in the Medicare reimbursement. And those cancers include things like head and neck cancer, of interest to you, esophageal cancer, and even some breast cancer. And it's shown that this document showed that were those cancers included, the number of patients who would benefit from proton therapy today would be about 2,300 patients. So Cancer Australia suggested that to service this sort of number of patients' needs, Australia would need at least 3 or possibly 4 large proton therapy facilities across the country operating by 2030, which isn't far away. And each of those facilities would need to be capable of treating about 750 patients a year. So there is a big demand. Of significance to investors, and I remind the investors that Proton Therapy Sydney is building a single room facility, which would be capable of treating about 420 patients, I think, Sue, per year. So there should be no shortage of patients now or in the future who would benefit from proton therapy in Sydney.
Exactly. And obviously, as someone who's gone through the rigors of head and neck cancer treatment, it only saddens my heart to know the increase in cancer predictions of growth in different types of cancer. And of course, conventional radiation therapy will still play a critical and widespread role across Australia. But we look forward to the day in the patient community when proton therapy is in the toolkit of multidisciplinary radiation therapy teams, so it can be offered to patients who could benefit from it. Look, I just want to thank all three of you so much for this briefing, and I want to thank you for joining us. If you'd like more information about investment opportunities in Proton Therapy Sydney and to request a detailed business case, contact Sue Bleasel, the Managing Director of Proton Therapy Sydney, and you'll see the details of how to do that on your screen now. And we'll also put details of where patients and family who have an interest in proton therapy can also find out information. My name's Julie McCrossin, and thank you so much for watching.